If we falter, we have to deliberately put ourselves back on track. It's not like when we mess up on our diet. Oh, I ate one Oreo. I might as well have the whole package, and I'll start again tomorrow. No, with our thought, we have to do whatever the equivalent of taking the rest of the package of Oreos to the outside garbage where it's really yucky and there's flies and so that we know we're not going to go back there and touch it. We release it, get right back on track. We train our thought along the definite premise. Okay, what does it mean to speak the truth? It's not just about saying what we know and parroting it and telling people, all is well, I am God, all of those kinds of things. Although that's not a bad thing either. It can be helpful in some situations. Ernest Holmes again writes, we speak into our words the intelligence which we are. And backed by that greater intelligence of the universal mind, our word becomes law unto the thing for which it is spoken. Our word has power. Everything we say is so. Everything we say is brought to bear in our experience. What about writing? Does Emma mean we all have to become authors of spiritual books? No. But writing could be anything, but it's very important that we write. It could be a gratitude list with 5 items on it. It could be a personal journal. It could be recording your demonstration. Those of you who are practitioners, I highly recommend you record the demonstrations of your clients, even if you change the names to protect the innocent, to protect the fabulous people who are having these demonstrations. Write it down. I find for me there's a kinesthesia, if you will, about writing what's going on. My client's demonstration, my own demonstration with my practitioner. It makes the truth more accessible and more tangible somehow by moving from my thinking mind through my physical self onto paper where I can actually see it. It becomes tangible. And living is pretty much self-explanatory too, right? It means acting in accordance with our premise, with our understanding, with our desired way of being, no matter what. No matter what. Moving in truth in this world and not being daunted, moving through anything, as Jay says, and not being moved by it. Last Sunday, I was back there in the foyer with Reverend Andrea. Those of you who don't know her, she's the pretty blonde with a haircut similar to mine. And I gave her a hug, and I noticed she was sort of crying, and I said, honey, what's wrong? And I have her permission to share this story. Those of you who know Reverend Andrea know that she has a very successful daycare center. And the 3 years I've been here, I keep hearing her say, when I retire, when I retire, when I retire. She's like Tina Turner. She's not going to retire. She loves her work, and her work loves her. She loves those children. The children love her, and she is never without customers. But a little over a week ago, a 22-month-old baby girl who normally is in her care was at her grandmother's. And she died. This beautiful little baby girl just made her transition. And they're calling it SIDS. But no matter what they call it, we call it a tragedy, right? And I think in life there is nothing we can imagine more devastating than the loss of a precious child, of a beloved baby girl. But I listened to Reverend Andrea standing in her truth, describing the situation with all the love and compassion in the world, and never for a moment stepping aside from principle. And I've seen her do this before in other situations with her elderly parents, with her daughter's labor not long ago. And she's never daunted by appearances. She doesn't stand outside in a cold, harsh manner. She fully embraces what is, but she is never outside of truth. Never, not once, not for a minute. I don't know what she does or how she does it. We need to ask her. We need to really get into her mind, into her inner dialogue. But I imagine she has a system in place. Now, on the lighter side, we can have systems in place for all kinds of things, can't we? I recently implemented a system for dealing with rattlesnakes. I like to live life abundantly, and so I treat for abundance, and lately I've had an abundance of rattlesnakes. And right now they're babies, they're very beautiful, as my husband can attest. But they're startling. And I'm not afraid of snakes, but I'm afraid for my dogs to walk into a bush where there may be a rattlesnake. But I have a system now. I have a large plastic bin with a lid and plenty of air, and I have what I call my rattlesnake tongs. They're really those things from TV where you can reach stuff up high. Grabbers, I don't know what they're called. So if and when I see a rattlesnake now, I get my tongs, gently pick up the snake, put it in the bin, close it. It has plenty of air until someone can take it down to the nearest field and release it. Glenn did that for us one day recently. There's the security guard at our subdivision gate who says if you get a big enough rattlesnake, bring it to him and he'll eat it. But ours are not that large. The point is, I have a system in place, so now I don't have to freak out, worry about the dogs. I just do what I need to do. How many of you have a similar system in place for something? Say like bee stings or earthquakes, okay? What about spiritually? How many of you have an actual system in place for dealing with whatever comes spiritually? In truth, 100%, no matter what, never daunted by the appearance. Okay? If you don't, I would like you to consider what that would look like. What would it mean to live life in the highest way possible, no matter what? I bet if you did approach Reverend Andrea and ask her how she does it, she would necessarily include something about a network of like-minded friends. Am I right? Mm-hmm. And I am 100% certain she would include the term spiritual community somewhere in her answer. Spiritual community, which brings us to level 6, interconnection. This means connecting our beliefs and our practices with our world through spiritual community. All people, regardless of their beliefs, seek a connection with the divine, no matter what they call it. And all people naturally seek a connection with each other. And for those of us who weren't born into a metaphysical teaching, it is ever so important that we nurture ourselves in the company of like-minded people. So we have a place to practice what we know with people who are loving and supportive. Interconnection is high up on the levels of healing. It's next to last because spiritual community provides an actual environment in which we can put levels 1 through 5 into play. So we get all this knowledge and wisdom and understanding. Where do we go to use it? Here, in our world, at our job, out there with all the mortals, of course. But isn't it wonderful when we're here all together? Okay? So interconnection is about living in the truth, in the company of others who are doing the same. I love it when my darling husband will stand up here on a Sunday and say, bring a friend to church next week. And invariably, somebody on the back row, sometimes it's Jill, could be anybody, they'll say, all my friends are here. They're already here. Yeah, they are, and it's wonderful. Okay, level 7 is grace. When all is said and done, we arrive at grace, and this is where we want to be, living in a state of grace, seamlessly flowing as spirit, expressing in the flesh, in a state of grace. It's the culmination of levels 1 through 6, and it must include levels 1 through 6 at all times. We don't start with 1 and go on to 2 and then move to 3. We take it all with us, so it's always, always flowing in our consciousness. Grace, again, is about flowing seamlessly in the world as spirit and expression. Yes, we are surrounded by effect, but we are never caught up in the effect. And grace doesn't mean that we get to this level and we just stagnate here forever, because even the good is never the best, because it is the nature of spirit ever and ever to eclipse itself. So there's always more. What does it mean for us to actively participate in grace and have it be an ongoing experience? Now, the answer to that question will be different for each person. But using the 7 levels as a guideline will help every person. You have a handout. Take it home. Use it. Individualize it. Contemplate it. Maybe use it with your practitioner if you're inclined to do that. Because these 7 levels apply to every area of our lives. And maybe there's just one thing we want to, quote, work on. But maybe somebody has multiple areas, or maybe somebody needs to work on all areas. I've heard some people refer to that as a spiritual challenge. But we know that at the level of spirit, there is no challenge. There's nothing to heal. There's only God perfection moving in as and through us. This is the truth, and it is absolutely wonderful, and so are you. And so it is. Namaste.